Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everybody in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, Labrador. Great that you could all join us today to talk about online in Latin America. Business development tools like websites and online marketing in Latin America. So that's going to be today. We're really excited about it. Thank you all for joining. You know how many webinars and things you have. We're going to keep this to half an hour. It's a lot of information packed into one, but we hope that you find it informative and also enjoyable as well. It's an exciting area to go online. So before I start, and just for the last of you log on, let me introduce ourselves. I am delighted to be joined by Erin Smith, Program Manager at the CBDC in Nova Scotia Association of CBDCs. And Erin is an absolute font of knowledge and goodwill and efficiency, answering questions that you might all have on anything regarding the CBDC's services and the province's services in helping you. And she'll come on in a moment to tell you a bit about that. And my name is Susanna Hardy, and I'm Chief Content Officer at IVT Online. So I get involved in everything about webinars, but also content for websites, from images, videos, to keywords and online marketing. A quick word also about our company, IVT Online. We've been going on for quite a long time. We're actually a US company, but we are delighted to be able to work with the Atlantic provinces for websites and for webinars and helping Atlantic province exporters gain more knowledge about the online world and websites, online marketing that go with it. So please ask us anything that you want in the chat box during this webinar or afterwards about anything online. And if I don't answer it myself, I know someone in my team will, and we'll get back to you by email if we don't get back to you right away. A quick view also on what we're going to be talking about today. We're really, Erin's going to spend a minute just talking about sort of a helping hand, you know, what the Atlantic Canada and the provinces are there for you, as well as our resources that are there and some of the other webinars that we have planned. Then we're going to dive straight into first a top line view of Latin America online, some of the big characteristics and some of the big markets, the most popular markets, what that means, how to engage with Latin America online, both for your website and for online marketing, and that, and then round up with a few sort of resources, takeaways, and a little tiny moment for Q&A for that. So without further ado, and do put your questions into the question box, by the way, we'll try and get back to all. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about first Atlantic Canada, sort of a helping hand, what some of the resources that are there available to you, and what we in particular at IVT Online are providing. We have some dedicated resources on our website actually, so that's ivt.onl, and if you go into the partner side, you'll see a page just dedicated for the provinces, Atlantic provinces, and in particular for webinars. And this was really also came at the organization, at the encouragement of the provinces themselves, and also the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, who really felt that bound together that they wanted to help their Atlantic Canada companies gain more insight and better understanding of the online world, to try to encourage them to get really the best online tools possible for 2021 and beyond. So as I said, we have a dedicated page on our website where you can find a lot of resources. We're putting a lot of infographics there, white papers, blogs, everything about online resources. And we have this very extensive library of webinars that we're rolling out now. This week was website localization as an introduction and online in Latin America. Next week, we're doing e-commerce in Southeast Asia. And all these will be hosted on our website as well as the CBDC, so that you can have a look at those in due course. I'm going to hand over to Erin now as well to say, you know, what what the CBDCs are doing and how to reach out and touch with them. Okay.
Thanks, Susanna. So hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Erin Smith. I'm Executive Director with the Nova Scotia Association CBDCs, and we're the delivery agent for the project that's hosting these webinars. So I want to make note that the funding support for this project is made possible through the Atlantic Trade and Investment Growth Agreement. This is a partnership of ACOA and the 4 Atlantic provincial governments. The folks at our provincial and federal government level are really keen to help us succeed in export. So I would encourage you to reach out to find out what other programs and services are available. We'll provide you at the end of the webinar with a contact list for all of those regional folks. If you're not sure who you should be getting in touch with, you can reach out to me and I'll make that introduction for you. My email's there on the screen, and you can find me by searching me in Google. I really hope you enjoy today's webinar on selling online in Latin America. Enjoy.
Thank you, Erin. Right then, introductions over. Let's just dive straight in onto Latin America. I've called this Latin America Online. And I think, so this first slide here, you'll see is just sort of a big overview. Now, this is more than just Latin America. It includes the US and Canada as well. But what I want to highlight with it really, you know, it's always been a region of huge potential, Latin America. You know, it's sort of all this potential. It's got 33 countries in it. And I think the combined population of those 33 countries is sort of 550 million people of it, so roughly that. Nearly 600 million, I think, including that. What we've really seen from our point of view, from the online point of view, is the adoption of internet across all of Latin America in a very startling way. Quite different from perhaps what you're used to in Canada and in the US. Much more mobile first, much more social media and interactive, responsive, and just also putting it at a whole lot longer time period on the online side than what we're used to in Canada. I'll drill down into some of the individual countries as well. But what I wanted to just point out on this, internet penetration rate across the Americas is about 76%. In Canada, it's about 77%. In the States, in the US, it's about 79%. Then across Latin America, it really varies according to one country to the other. But what we'll see is that it is very much mobile-dominated market for that. And it's still growing, and it's growing at sort of quite significant rates. These numbers show the growth rates in 2019 because they're taken in January 2020. And we can say that 2020 accelerated a lot of these trends, and we saw up to a 7% increase, again, on those numbers in 2020 for most markets. Active social media users grew by 6% across the Americas in 2019, and again jumped by nearly 12% in 2020, as far as we can see. These are first indicative numbers. I'll only get the final numbers in March. I wanted to highlight this slide here about how much time do we spend on the internet. You know, the average worldwide average on the internet is nearly 7 hours, 6 hours and 55 minutes. 7 hours. So 7 hours of everyone's day is spent online. But I wanted to point out with this slide, I know it's hard to read, in Canada, by the way, it's 6.5 hours, so you're a little bit below the world average. But if you can see it on the far left-hand side, where it's really high up, that's where you're going to find Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, Mexico. All of those countries are right up there in Brazil, 10 hours a day on average online. Argentina, 9 hours and 40 minutes on average per hour. So, these are countries where the online world takes on a huge importance. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not really an economist who would look into, or a social anthropologist, I guess, who would look at why that would be. But it's reckoned that a lot of that has to do with The fact that sometimes the landlines don't work. So you use but the mobile data works better than your landline, for example, and it's cheaper. One other thing about because a couple of big characteristics that in these markets. Google has absolute market share. So there's a little table there on the left-hand side. I mean, Peru, 97% market share. Yeah. The lowest is Mexico with 92.5% market share. So, over 90% market share for search engines. So that's good. I mean, it makes your life easy if you're building your website, because then you can say, okay, I just really need to focus on making sure that Google likes me in those countries. And I wanted to point out also as well, obviously to you, Google in Bolivia is different from Google in Peru. It's different from Google in Brazil. It's different from Google in Canada. Don't think of Google as one big mastodon. Google is different in every country. So, for example, what I've listed there, the .mx, .ar, those are all the top level country domain names, like .ca for Canada. So if you are building a website in Chile, you need to have CL, or in Colombia, you need to have CO, for example, at the end of your website. Otherwise, Google does not think it is relevant for Colombia. Okay. The other main thing that you have to get right from the start is your keywords. And Brazilian Portuguese is not the same as Portuguese. Spanish in Latin America is not the same as Spanish in Spain. And getting those words right is going to be really important, not just to make sure that Google thinks you're relevant in those markets, too, because that will making sure that people can find you in those markets, but they're using the right keywords when they're typing in whatever they type in to find you. And 3, if you are doing any online marketing, to make sure that you're not giving money to Google for nothing. So you got the right keywords for any Google campaigns you're doing. So here's an example of the word car in Spain versus Mexico. And you have to make sure that you're really using the right word, auto in Mexico, coche in Spain. There's lots and lots of words like this that are different in the markets. They're different, not that you wouldn't understand it, not that someone in Mexico would not understand the word coche. It's just that for you optimizing your website, you really need to use the word auto to optimize it properly. I don't want to talk too much about website localization because we did that at the last webinar, but I just wanted to highlight maybe one slide, and it's the slide I do each time, mainly because it's so embarrassing when my dog barks during these webinars. So let's say you're sitting in Boston. In Boston, you would go to google.com, and if you've got a dog, you put in squeakless dog toys, try and find something to amuse your dog during webinars, and you'd get chewy.com, freedompoolharness.com, amazon.com. And if you were sitting in the UK, so still using the English language, but google.co.uk for the UK, you'd get barksandbunnies.co.uk, timeforpaws.co.uk, amazon.co.uk. So this is an example, a visual example that I hope shows you that you need to localize your websites. Localizing your websites for Latin America versus, so your website is still going to be this, it's still going to have the same content on it as your Canadian website, but it is a different website. And just capsuling all that in one slide, here are the 10 criteria that we define a localized website. So registered domain name, regulatory requirements, hosting, where it's hosted. One of those criterion is language. All the rest are either technical or adaptations. So there a lot goes into localizing your websites. Here's a little trick, if you like. This is a screenshot of the Google Analytics of a website we built for a client who wanted a Mexican website. And one way of knowing if your website is properly localized or not is to see who's coming to it. And if Google thinks they're relevant for Mexico, if you build a Mexican website, and how do you know Google thinks it's relevant or not? Well, Google in this case 9,000 people out of a total of 10,000 are from Mexico. So if you're a Canadian company looking to build a Mexican website, that's the kind of analytics that you want. 90% of those people going to that website are from Mexico, which is the intention. And then there's another 900 from Chile, and then if you include sort of nearby Latin American countries, you get up to 99%. So that is very much the result of localizing your websites for that. So back to Latin America as a whole, one of the key things I said is that it is extremely mobile connected. It's a mobile first market. Mobile connectivity in South America, Southern America anyway, is on par with North America, actually slightly higher. And people use their smartphones in a way. I mean, I'm glued to my smartphone, but people in Latin America really use it as a business tool all day long, much more so than your laptop or your home computer or whatever. So one of the things that you really want to make sure is that your websites are totally mobile enabled, and that you are looking at your website from a very much a mobile connection perspective first. On this is the other big characteristic is really how sociable Latin America is on the internet. And I'm sorry this is in Spanish, but I just found it so, it just amazes me. This was a big survey across many markets across Latin America, and they asked, why do you access the internet? Check the priorities. Why do you access the internet? And for most countries, you'll get things like, I want to access the news, I want to keep up with my emails, and I want to check out with friends. In Latin America, by far the biggest, 79%, I want to go on social media. Number 2, I want to get my mails. Number 3, I want to do instant messaging. Number 4, I'd like to get some news. But by then it really drops down. The big reason why you want to go to the internet, social media. I want to engage in social media. I want to talk on to the world in different ways. We'll see some examples of how this works. Another sort of top level point about Latin America is e-commerce. If you are interested in e-commerce, if you're on the B2B or B2C, I would really recommend you also look at Mercado Libre. It is really, obviously Amazon is there too, but Mercado Libre is a very interesting platform and has a deep root and a strong growth throughout Latin America. And it has these different sort of business units, as it were, including fintech and things. But it's really a very powerful platform, and can give Amazon a good run for its money in across Latin America. So if you are looking at e-commerce, that might be one to look at as well. E-commerce in Latin America is growing fast, double-digit numbers, and but everybody grew double-digit in 2020. Canada's e-commerce market is up about 25% in last year. That's the kind of numbers you had in Latin America before that. So in 2020, I don't have the numbers yet for B2C e-commerce in Latin America, but I would suggest it's certainly in the 30-35% range. Drilling down and looking quickly at a couple of the different big countries, look at some of the individual countries. So I've put them in alphabetical order, by the way. Argentina, 45 million people, 90% of them live in cities. And if you look at the number of mobile phone connections versus the population, so 130%. So there's like 30% more phones than there are people, phone connections than there are people. So that gives you an idea also of how many people have not just, perhaps they have 2 phones, but they'll certainly have 2 SIM cards, and they'll use their phones for different ways. I've got my business phone, I've got my home phone, I've got perhaps, they will literally have several different SIM cards that they use in different times. 78 and 80% of the population are online, and almost all of them are on social media. And these are similar characteristics that you'll find throughout, yeah. For that. So, and then moving on, let's look at Brazil just quickly. It's the largest economy, obviously, in Latin America. It is a very, very active e-commerce market, which is interesting because e-commerce in Brazil is complicated. It's very bureaucratic, having to fill out lots of things and such. But it is a very, very high demand market and a high growth market. I'm sorry that the last number I have is 2018. I only have estimates in 2019 and 20, but it's certainly a lot larger than that. We talked about, again, a large population, 212 million people, 97% of them living in the big cities. And again, if you look at the internet users, 71% of them are on internet and nearly all of them on social media, similar to what we saw there. One thing I found interesting as well as a statistic, 90% of internet users in Brazil are online every day. And we saw earlier on that other slide, if you remember, the average time spent online in Brazil is over 10 hours a day. Chile, again, here we have again this thing of 19 million people, 26 million mobile phone connections, and of the 19 million, sort of 15 million internet users, 15 million social media users. So 99% of social media users access also by their mobile phone. Again, these big characteristics coming out country after country. So again, very urban in that sense. High internet penetrations, a lot of time spent on the internet, mobile first, and very much social media. Then Colombia, again, 100% of people online are on social media. And again, this high level of mobile phone use and a very strong connection between brand growth, where do you find brands, and the internet as well. That's a very strong one in Colombia. Peru, an interesting market, if not a reason that it's a very, very high growth market, but similar to all the other ones, more mobile phone connections than people, and everybody who's on the internet is also on social media. For various reasons, it's a very strong market for Snapchat, but also for TikTok. And you'll see that TikTok is very strong across Latin America. Looking at some of the big online business development tools, basically, as we know, there are two. Let's get down to absolute simplified things. There are two online business tools. There are websites and there's online marketing. And that's what you really need to know about this. And when you're looking at all of this, what you need to figure out, first of all, is your international buyer persona. Are they the same as your domestic Canadian buyer personas or not? And what kind of buyer personas are there in Latin America? Is the buyer persona in Colombia the same as the one in Chile, as the one in Brazil, and so on? So you're really having to make sure that you have a good understanding of your Latin America buyer persona. Now, I'm sorry, my internet's a bit slow. I hope that you're seeing this slide. I wanted to highlight on the right-hand side of the slide, L'Oreal USA. That's their latest, that they're looking at. And it's interesting to me because L'Oreal is very much on trend and on target when they good feeling for what's going on in the world. Here are these groups of women. They look like they're all in charge on the top floor of a business area, and that's L'Oreal saying, this is reflecting what they think is happening in the United States at the moment. In L'Oreal at the moment in Mexico, yes, it's a similar vibe. You're all smiling. In the last one, not everyone was smiling. In Mexico, everyone's smiling. There's some flowers on the desk. You're also at the top of the building, but you're sort of gathered round, and there's a mixture between men and women there. The man sort of doing the computer work, and everyone else sort of looking around. So again, just a sort of tweaking for the local environment that you can see there. And my last one, really looking at Brazil. In Brazil, sort of a slightly different feel to it again, with perhaps something that's a little bit sunnier, a little bit less of an office, a little bit less of an office feel to it, and a bit more looking sort of what someone in Brazil would recognize. Right, moving on, we want to talk also about sort of the online world, the marketing side of the world. And they're really talking about communication and how particularly people in Latin America would look at social media as part of their messaging, as part of their everyday part. I wanted to highlight as well how strong WhatsApp is, and in terms of the messaging app. It's if I looked at messaging apps across North America, in Canada and the US, it's Facebook Messenger. And in Latin America, Brazil, it's very, very strongly WhatsApp. And people in Latin America will it's not unheard of, it's not uncommon at all to have 10 or 15 different WhatsApp channels, on your phone. You can have groups on your phone. So, you'll have a different group for home, picking kids up at school, work, friends at work, colleagues, different, and you'll have all these different groupings for your WhatsApps. And a lot of the social media happens via WhatsApp. So, for example, if they use it like a search engine as well, where's the best place to buy Canadian oysters? in my hometown of Rio de Janeiro, and you put that on WhatsApp rather than go to Google. So the social media acts like search engines, like closed unit search engines, and therefore word of mouth, or sort of word of virtual mouth, becomes even more important in across Latin America. For that. And when we look at social media use, we said it's about sort of 69% in the United States. We said in Canada it's actually at about 77%. But I wanted to highlight how strong it is in Latin America. Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, Brazil are all way above 80% social media use versus, as I said, Canada at 77%. Worldwide average is 63%. So, and the US at about 80%. But as I said, Argentina, 96% of social media users compared to the population. So again, just reinforcing this notion of a very reactive, inactive market. Some of the top ones that I want to highlight, obviously the usual customers are there, such as Facebook. But I want to highlight how the cost per click is actually really, really good value, really inexpensive. Relatively cheap compared to other countries. So if you're looking at doing online media campaigns and click campaigns, Google's, that's a very, very affordable route to go in Latin America. Look at the price of Mexico versus, for example, the UK. 100% difference. And just these examples, again, these are just looking at different types of engagement for online media, for social media activity that you might want to have. Here we're comparing something in Argentina versus Germany, where posts, you saw on the one side, this is a post that we put out at exactly the same time, and just exactly the same moment, and it just had a very different effect, with in Germany, we had 252 engagements, which we thought was really proud about. In Argentina, we had 320. So a huge step up from that. And if you look behind the scenes, however, the Germany and the Argentina ones were similar in terms of their conversion. So conversion to leads, conversion to sales, which is request a quote, for example. So if you look at the request a quote, it was similar, but the engagement of, yeah, I like this, send me more, that's really interesting. Those blue and red stripes on those bar charts shows you just how engaged the Argentina market is, whereas the Germans are very withdrawn and don't say anything, but they will actually request a quote similar to the Argentinians. So little example here, just showing you some examples of the kind of online marketing you would want to do in these markets. Very visual, very engaged, and asking real questions like, hey, do you have this problem? And you will get responses. People will come back to you and say, yeah, my car does that too, or they'll show you pictures of their car. So you'll expect to get replies and things. So the tone, the voice that you might have in Latin America could be very different from the tone of voice that you would have in, say, Canada or whatever, where you'd be perhaps a bit more formal. In Latin America, much less so, much more person to person, much more individual, and asking real questions, and you will get real answers back from them too. So, and one of the major ways doing that really is to help your distributors to lead generation. That's always the key, I think, to helping your social media in Latin America. So major takeaways and hopefully some questions. These are these things. So first of all, Latin America online, highly mobile, very reactive, very sociable. It is relatively cheap in terms of online marketing, so really, really worth doing that, because you get you can go a long way with $100 in Latin America, with very strong engagement, as we saw, but perhaps more challenge to actually convert that into sales. So lots of likes and yes and shares and yippee, but convert that into request a quote, or send me the price, or I'll pay you, gets a little bit more challenging. And then this very strong development in e-commerce for that. So those are the big characteristics of online in Latin America. We'd love to hear more from y'all. If you have specific questions, drop them in the chat box. I guess the question we always leave really is, circling back, as it were, why we think you could benefit, Canadian exporters, why Atlantic province companies could benefit from online business development tools, really because the world's online, and it's the best way, most cost-effective way, fastest way for you to engage internationally with prospective buyers and your existing clients. They're all online, so you should have a strong online presence to match that. For that. So there are some dedicated resources as well, in particular the webinars that we're doing at the moment. We would invite you all to sign up to these webinars and join us for them. And as I said, the next week we have e-commerce and Southeast Asia, I think it is, and then online marketing, online in Europe, and so on and so on. So we have a series of them, and you can download them at any time and share them as well. They're also up with Erin. We said also we would be, Erin mentioned that we'll share the contact details of the different provinces, of people to reach out to, whether it's Trevor or Cara or Suzanne, Natuja, whoever it is within, if you're in New Brunswick or if in PEI, then reach out to the right person. If you can't find that person, as Erin said, reach out to the to Erin, and she will help there. Right. So for me, next steps, if you like, is just check out the webinars and sign up and get on board and put in questions as well. We're always happy to answer them. If you If you like, then also get your teams together and figure out what should you be doing online. Should you be looking at your website? Should you be perhaps thinking of how you could improve it and such? If you have questions, if you have doubts, thoughts, we're always happy to jump on a call and chat through that. I've taken up my half hour. I'm supposed to be having a half-hour webinar. It's 35 minutes. If you have questions, please do let me know. I can see one at the moment. There's only one question at the moment. I'll answer that one, which is about domain names. Domain names across Latin America are not hard to get. They're not usually restricted at all. Very often you can buy them. They're not very expensive. They're not like in Canada where you have to be Canadian to get a domain name. You have to be Canadian to get a .ca. For most of Latin America, that is the case. It's easier than some markets. I neglected to say as well, there's also a .lat, which can be very interesting for you. .lat applies to all of Latin America. So it's not country specific. It doesn't really apply as well to Brazil. But if you're looking for, like, not just Mexico, but I want a bigger region, more a shotgun approach than a laser, as it were, then a .lat might be for you. Okay, I hope that answered your question. With that, rounding up our webinar, and we hope to see you on the next webinar on e-commerce for any other webinars in the series. Thank you all for joining today. Stay safe, stay well, keep exporting, and take care, everyone. Thank you all very, very much. Bye-bye.